Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are on this planet. Welcome to the first ever Golf Undigested Podcast. My name is Clark Burroughs and I'm your host. I used to play back in the day a little bit, and I will share my thoughts and opinions and give you predictions and analysis of every tournament every week on both the European Tour, PGA Tour, Champions Tour, LPGA, all the tours. First topic I'd like to discuss is I was reading where the USGA, who governs the game of golf, decided to enforce a rule that prohibits players from handing in their cards when they play by themselves. So in other words, if you're playing a onesome, you cannot hand that card in for your handicap. And there's two ways to look at this. All right, let's just say there's Joe. And Joe has a big ego. And Joe's like a 4 handicap but can't play to a 10. I see it all the time. And Joe goes out and he's playing a onesome. And, you know, he's scraping a 3 or 4 footer here or there or hitting an extra ball there. And he's always shooting a low score when he plays by himself. Then there's old Tony, who's a sandbagger. And Tony, he doesn't care. He doesn't care what he shoots, you know. He's hitting balls left and right, 3-putting, this and that. And, you know, he's a 10 handicap and he's posting an 88. So I guess the reason that the USGA is enforcing this rule is probably to alleviate sandbagging. I don't know if it's going to help. You know, because if you're a true sandbagger, you pretty much know how to sandbag. It's like being a golf hustler. I mean, you know how to hustle. You know, like if you're giving a guy a stroke and he hits it 2 feet from the pin and you're in the left rough with a tough shot, you know, why not make a 7? Who cares? You know what I mean? The guy's going to win the hole anyway. He's got a 3 for a 2. But these guys that are whining and crying on the internet about playing a onesome, they need to just shut up and go with the rule. The USGA is doing it for a reason. The USGA governs the game of golf, so, you know, deal with it. You know, don't play a onesome or find a buddy to play with or, you know, deal with it. Golf, you know, is kind of dead right now. There's not a lot going on, but we did have a couple tournaments last week that I'd like to share with you. Kevin Kisner won the RSM Classic by 6 strokes. He finally got the monkey off his back. Previously, in his last 19 or 20 tournaments, the kid had 4 runner-up finishes, including 3 playoff losses. If you remember last year at Hilton Head, he lost to Jim Furyk. Then, 2 or 3 weeks later at TPC, he lost to Ricky Fowler in a playoff. Remember, Ricky was hitting it 3 feet on 17, 3 times in a row. Then Kisner lost at the Greenbrier Classic in a 4-man playoff to Danny Lee. So he's been in the right direction, and finally it's good to see him, you know, get a win and get the monkey off his back. And you know what? I think that he'll probably, you know, we forget that 4 or 5 weeks ago he finished second to Justin Thomas at the CIMB Classic. I think that tournament was in Malaysia. And this kid can really play. He doesn't really have a weakness in his game. Hits a lot of fairways, streaky putter. You know, I look for him to probably pick up 1 or 2 more wins this year on the PGA Tour. And boy, he went to Georgia. That Georgia Bulldog coach has a hell of a program going on. I mean, think about all the players that are on the PGA Tour that came out of Georgia. I mean, it's a pretty good list. I mean, you got Kisner, of course, and you got Bubba Watson, Russell Henley, he's won on tour, Harris English won on tour, Chris Kirk, Brandon Todd, both those guys have won on tour. Hudson Swafford's kind of, you know, getting his career going. Brian Harmon, Eric Compton. I mean, man, they got a program. I mean, the only one that, Oklahoma State has some great tradition, have been a powerhouse for years. I guess maybe they're comparable, but not really. I mean, they got Ricky Fowler, who else? Hunter Mahan, Charles Howell III, Bo Van Pelt, Morgan Hoffman, Peter Uihlein plays in Europe. But, man, that Georgia team is loaded, and that coach must be doing a hell of a job. Another tournament that took place last week was the DP World Classic in Dubai, where, no surprise, Rory McIlroy won his third Race to Dubai title in like 4 years. I think it was his fourth win of the season. It was a pretty good tournament to watch. He was battling Andy Smiley Sullivan. I mean, this Sullivan kid smiles and smiles and smiles. Rory was chasing Sullivan down most of the week and ended up building a two-stroke lead, going to 17, and then hit it in the water on 17, recovered and made a bogey. And then they both parred the last hole, and Rory, he was the betting favorite, and he ended up winning. But getting back to this Sullivan kid, I think he's 28 years old. He's won a couple times over there, and all this kid does is smile. I mean, I've never seen a golfer smile that much. He just hits a bad shot, smiles. I don't know if it's a fake smile. I don't think it is, but I don't know. There's just something about him that I don't know. I just don't like a guy that smiles that much. Another couple players that come to mind and over there in Europe is a guy by the name of Matthew Fitzpatrick. He picked up a win earlier in the year. He won the U.S. Amateur. He had a scholarship to Northwestern, opted out of the scholarship at the last minute to turn pro. He's 21 years old. He had 10 top 10s last year on the European Tour, including that win. And this kid hits it down the middle, on the green, great putter. I think he's in the top 5 in greens in regulation and fairways hit. So, you know, that goes a long ways. When you can hit the fairways and hit the greens, you know, you got a chance. And he's a good putter, too. He's definitely got all the tools. He won the U.S. Amateur, and I think that he's going to do great things. Matthew Fitzpatrick. Write him down. And the Race to Dubai, you know, is trying to compete with the FedEx Cup on the regular tour. About 5 or 6 years ago, they came up with this Race to Dubai standings, and it was a year-long competition similar to that of the FedEx Cup. But let me tell you, it has failed miserably. At least on the regular tour, on the FedEx Cup, they have 4 tournaments. You know, they start out with 125, and then the next week they cut it down to 100, and then it's down to 70, and the last week there's 30, which makes sense. You know, you eliminate players each week. Well, on the Race to Dubai in Europe, they started out with 4 tournaments. It's called their Final Series. They started out in Turkey. Turkish Airlines Open, I think it's called. Flamboyant Frenchman Victor Dubuisson won the tournament, and it was a pretty good field. Most of the players played, and, you know, it wasn't a bad tournament. Then the next week they go to the WGC HSBC Champions in Shanghai, where Russell Knox won, and it was all American players. Very few European players played. Again, they didn't eliminate anyone, and I don't get the point of it. Then the next week, this is what really gets me. They play the BMW Masters. They also was in Shanghai, China. And instead of eliminating people, they're adding people. John Daly got an exemption into the tournament. Now, I know JD, and I like JD, but JD is getting ready for the senior tour. How the hell can he play in the third leg of the Race to Dubai? I don't understand it. And then, you know, the last tournament, the DP, they eliminated it to 60, finally, but, you know, I don't get the point of it. They need to do something. They need to tweak it. They need to do something because it's not working. The LPGA played last week. I'll follow that a little. It's not so bad. It's easy on the eyes these days. It's not like it was when I played. Christy Kerr shot 17 under, second win of the year, and 18th of her career. She's a little older, been out there a while. 18 wins is remarkable. I mean, not many women have 18 wins to their name. I think she has a major or two, too. No surprise, Lydia Ko and Inbee Park battled it out. Lydia Ko was the player of the year. She ended up beating Inbee Park and ended up sewing up the player of the year, second player of the year. That girl is something else. And she'll dominate next year on the LPGA. Let's see where we're going to go now. Let's go to a little story that I have for you. I have a lot of stories. It's a pretty good story. It reminded me of, 30 years ago. Well, I was up at the club, the country club last week, and eating some lunch, and they had a rankings tournament, junior rankings tournament. And I know most of the kids, and one of the kids came up to me, and he's about 13 years old, and he says, they call me Bones, and they say, Bones, excuse me, I've been battling a cold. He says, Bones, I can't believe I'm so stupid. I hit the wrong ball, I was penalized 2 strokes, and blah, 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 blah. And, that's the great thing about the game of golf. This kid's 13, he hit the wrong ball, he's penalized 2 strokes, feels terrible. He's unhappy, wasn't crying, but very, unhappy. And I told the kid, I said, well, what'd you learn? He says, well, I learned, I hit my own ball. I said, well, there you have it. You learned a lesson today, right? So that's not a bad thing. Which reminded me of back when I used to play. I think the year was 1983, and I'm playing a college tournament. I went to the Ohio State University. I'm a Buckeye. I bleed scarlet and gray. But at any rate, we're playing a tournament down in Florida. It's like the third round. We're playing Greenleaf Golf Club in Haines City, Florida. Sadly, the course isn't there anymore. It went under, belly up. But anyway, I'm playing with a guy that plays for the University of Florida named Jay Townsend. And Jay, if you follow golf, he walks the fairways on the European Tour with the lead groups and does play-by-play. His name's Jay Townsend. So we're playing the 17th hole at Greenleaf, and we both hit our drives like 2 or 3 yards apart. So I get up, because I was a fast player. I wanted to hit. So the group in front of him's off the green. I hit right on the green. Jay gets up, hits his, forget where he hit it. So I get up to my ball, mark my ball. I'm looking at my ball, and here's a orange and blue gator on my ball. A little emblem. And I'm like, this isn't my ball. Jay, we hit the wrong ball. So what do we have to do? We went back to the fairway. I had to place my ball down where his was and mine was, and 2-stroke penalty. So you'd think that I'd learned my lesson. So about 1.5 years later, I qualified for my first U.S. Amateur. So I didn't really know what to expect, but, I ended up qualifying numero uno. I was the medalist. As a matter of fact, I shot the course record the first qualifying round, ended up being the number 1 seed. So I rolled through my first match. In the second match, I'm playing a teammate of mine at Ohio State named Brian Mogg. And Brian Mogg is a really good teacher down in Orlando. I think he's coached Charles Howell III and a few others. This Brian Mogg's nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. So we're playing the second round match in the U.S. Amateur. And remember, I hit the wrong ball like a year ago. But remember, I'm a slow learner. So I'm 2 up going to number 9. And we both hit our ball in the left trap. This was at North Shore Country Club in Chicago, outside of Chicago. And It's where they play the Champions Tour event every year. It's called North Shore Country Club. Hell of a course. So we're playing the 9th hole. We both hit our ball in the left bunker. So I get in. You know me, I'm always in a hurry. I get out, blast it out like 2 feet. So I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm going to remain 2 up, right? Unless he holes out. So Mog, we used to call him Mogger, he gets in the bunker and says, Clark, that's not my ball. You hit the wrong ball. So here I am, a year and a half apart. I hit the wrong ball twice. Well, I didn't get a 2-stroke penalty because it was match play. I lost the hole. So now I'm only 1 up. But, you know, as in golf, you have to have a short memory, and I ended up disposing of Mog about, 4-3. Ended up going on to the semifinals, losing in the semifinals, and ended up earning my trip to the Masters. So that's the story of the lost ball. I mean, you know, make sure you mark your ball, hit the right ball. Hell, I did it twice. But you know what? I don't feel so bad because in the 2014 U.S. Open at, where did they play? Pinehurst number 2. Martin Kamer ended up walking away with it. But in the second round, Hunter Mahan and Jamie Donaldson are playing together, and I guess they're playing the same ball, you know, same kind of ball with the same similar markings, and they hit the wrong ball in the U.S. Open. So I didn't feel so bad. I did it twice within like a year and a half, but these guys did it actually in the competition of the U.S. Open. How do you think they felt, man? A pro doing it. But getting back to the little kid, you know, that's the great thing about golf. It teaches us lessons every day. And that's why I love the game, and I think it's the greatest game on the earth. It really is. All right, this week we have a couple tournaments left. You know, in Europe, they just had their last tournament of the year, and unbelievably, they're already starting their next year. I mean, they have the Alfred Dunhill Championship this week in South Africa. And I don't understand that either. Don't they give them 2 weeks to breathe or eat or rest? No. They're off and running in South Africa. It's the 22nd year of the tournament. The defending champion Brandon Grace is on hand. Charles Schwartzel, Louis Oosthuizen. And what gets me, I watched this tournament last year. It's played at a Gary Player design course called Leopard Creek Country Club. And it's near Kruger Park, which is basically a jungle. And let me just read you this from the Leopard Creek site, home site, because you don't hear this very often, if at all. Here it reads. It says, golfing hazards take on a new dimension at Leopard Creek. For much of the water is home to the magnificent creatures of which the river is named crocodiles. Extensive use has been made of water features, and sightings of crocodile, hippos, antelope, buffalo, monkeys, and elephants are commonplace on the cork in the Kruger Park bordering the course. And just last year I was watching the tournament, and Luke Donald's leading the tournament. I forget what day it was. He's playing the tournament, and 3 monkeys are going across the fairway while he's trying to play. That was something. So he had to back off. There's pictures of it. If you YouTube it, I'm sure you could, find a picture of it. I watched it live at like 1 a.m, and it was unreal to see monkeys on the course. But hippos, hell, I might be scared to play that course. I mean, I don't know if I'd want hippos coming after me while I'm trying to make birdie. But any rate, it's I think it's the 22nd year, like I said. They've got a few good players. It's basically a South African Open. Most of the players are from South Africa. Let's check out the betting odds for this, courtesy of DSI. Brandon Grace is a 4-1 favorite. He's favored to win. Charles Schwartzel, who's won the tournament twice, is at 6-1. You got Louis O at 8-1, and then he dropped down to 20-1. Lucas Bjerregaard. But here's a guy that I think is going to do well this week. His name's Jaco Van Zyl. Maybe some of you haven't heard of him. He's at 29 plus 29-1. And he's lacked 6 starts playing on home soil. He's had 2 seconds, 2 thirds, a tie for 6th, and I think a tie for 15th. So he loves playing at home. Actually, about 6 or 7 years ago, I had a wild hair in my ass and decided I was going to go. I hadn't played golf competitively for like a decade, and I decided, well, I'm going to go 4-spot for a Nike event or a web.com event or whatever the hell it's called. So I go to Odessa, Texas, and I'm going to qualify 4-spot. They had 4 qualifying spots. And I'm paired with Jaco Van Zyl. Never heard of the kid. He played pretty good. I could see that he was a good player. He didn't make it either. I think I shot 72, and actually it was getting slow at the end, and he kind of walked off the course after 16 holes. He was even par, and I think 4 or 5 under 1, so he wasn't going to make it. But he's definitely a guy to keep your eye on, and gives you the best value on the board at 2,900, plus 29-1. Looking down the board, there's guys in this field that I've never even heard of. Benjamin Haber, never heard of him. Brandon Stone, David Drysdale. I wonder if he's a grandson of the pitcher Don Drysdale. Now, here's a kid, Eddie Pepperell's not bad. He's 24-25. But I would stick with that Jaco Van Zyl at 29-1. Here's another guy, Paul Dunn, 62-1. He's the rookie. He's a rookie this year. He went through qualifying school, played pretty good at the. Remember, he was leading the Open Championship for 3 rounds before, suffocating to the pressure. But Paul Dunn, nice player, played the Walker Cup for Europe, went to University of Alabama, Birmingham, didn't do much in college, but it's really starting to catch fire, and he's a guy to definitely keep your eye on in the coming year. Let's go to the golf matchups, again, courtesy of DSI. I'm going to look for Jaco Van Zyl. I think that he is paired up against Joost Luiten. Pick him. Jaco Van Zyl, pick him over Joost Luiten. I like it. Luiten struggled, had a horrible year, hasn't played at this tournament in like a decade, since 2007, I think. Van Zyl will beat Luiten. Let me see what else we have here. They've got a lot of them up. Oh, here's another one. Jaco Van Zyl against Lucas Bjerregaard. Bjerregaard's favorite at $100.40. I don't know. I like Van Zyl. I also like Brandon Grace against Louis O. You have to lay $1.40 to win at 100, but Louis O is doesn't really play. He's never won this tournament. Doesn't really play good at Leopard Creek. You can catch all the action on the Golf Channel. I think it comes on at 5 in the morning Eastern time. Yeah, I'm going to watch it. I want to see monkeys or hippos or giraffes or whatever else they have there. Buffalo running the fairways. I mean, that's something you don't see every day, and I'll be viewing in. I'm a golf junkie. I love watching golf. Another tournament that many of you probably don't know about is in the land of Down Under, the Emeritus Australian Open. Defending champion Jordan Spieth. It's at the Australian Golf Club, which I hear is fantastic. It's in Sydney, Australia. Spieth has some competition. Adam Scott's playing, Johnny Sendon, George McNeil, Peter Uihlein, Jeff Ogilvy, Mark Leishman. I think Stephen Bowditch is playing. Lee Westwood, he's playing. the list of past champions is unreal at this tournament. Jack Nicklaus won the tournament 6 times. Gary Player won it 7 times. Arnold Palmer, excuse me, sorry Arnie, he won in 1965. Greg Norman, of course, won it 5 times, and Tom Watson won it once in 1984. That's a hell of a list of players. Man, I'm going to be watching that. That comes on, I think, at 9 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. Comes on tonight. Another kid, Bryson DeChambeau, finished second last week in Australia. He's playing as an amateur. This kid can play, man. He won the NCAAs and the U.S. Amateur last year. That's tough to do. I mean, that kid can play. He's the one that wears the Payne Stewart hat. He goes to, I think he goes to SMU, I guess, where Payne Stewart went to. The kid can really play. I'll be excited to watch him play. Let's go down to the odds of that tournament. Again, courtesy of DSI. Of course, Jordan Spieth's the favored. He's plus 175. You're not getting much money for your dollar there. Adam Scott's 615. I don't know. I don't really like anything in that. I guess you got Lee Westwood at 30-1, although he hasn't been playing good. He won the tournament in 97. George McDeal is a solid player on the stage. He's at 42-1. Jeff Ogilvy. Bryson DeChambeau, they got odds up on him at 50-1. That might be interesting to put a couple nuggets on him. In the matchups, I'm sure they have Spieth against Scott. Let me look here. I'm scrolling down. Yeah, they got Jordan Spieth against Adam Scott. Spieth's favored by 185 to win 100. Be tough not to take him. Scott can't putt anymore. He's blew up last week, shot 77 in the third round, ended up finishing 6th. Mark Leishman, John Senden, Peter Uihlein, Matt Jones. Kind of like that Matt Jones. Uihlein is going through a swing change, switched teachers. Played okay, but Matt Jones is from Australia, and Matt Jones has a hot-looking wife, let me tell you. Go check her out. There ain't no bugs flying around her, I could tell you. We got Lee Westwood against the amateur, Bryson DeChambeau. It'll be an interesting tournament, one that I will definitely watch and view. And I like to, like I said, I'm a golf junkie. I love watching golf. I like betting golf. I love playing golf. I like talking golf. I just love golf. So anyway, I guess that pretty much concludes this week's first ever Golf Undigested Golfcast podcast. Kind of losing it here at the end, but that's why I'm a 15 handicap right now on this podcast stuff. But I promise you by next week I'll be in single digits. So next time you play, take a deep breath, pick your target, keep your eye on the ball, and hit it down the fairway. Don't do too much thinking. Just let it rip, and I'll talk to y'all next week. Bye-bye.